Good morning. Hi. Everybody wide awake? It's like midday, right? You guys look good. Everybody's awake. Good morning, folks. I'm Ollie Chandock. I'm the publisher of the Triad Business Journal. On behalf of the staff and our sponsor, I'd like to welcome you to the 2017 State of Rockingham panel discussion. This is part of a larger series that the Business Journal does. We call it internally the State of Our Community. These programs, along with all the content that we do, serve to highlight the successes in the region, and sometimes we want to discuss some of the challenges that we face in certain regions. So we are happy to be back. We've been here, and Lloyd, you can correct me on this, but this is 6 or 7 years that we have been in Rockingham County. It's been great to partner with Jan and her team, so we're very happy to be back. We have a terrific group of panelists today. You're staring at them. They look very wide awake, and we have a very, very accomplished moderator, our managing editor, Lloyd Whittington, who I think all of you probably recognize his name, and you will get to hear from him this morning. So exciting stuff. Before we start, I do want to recognize our sponsor, our presenting sponsor. They helped to produce this program, but they also helped shape some of the content. We had many discussions about panelists and about the conversation scheme. So we're excited to partner with Blue Cross Blue Shield of North Carolina. And I'd like to introduce their Director of Community Relations, Cheryl Marchetti. Let's give Cheryl a warm welcome.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here to see such a great crowd this morning. On behalf of Blue Cross, we are truly delighted. We partnered with the Triangle Business Journal to bring together business, government, and communities together right here in Rockingham County to talk about economic development. There's a lot of opportunities here and challenges. So we know that not all economic development happens in Greensboro, High Point, and Winston-Salem. And Rockingham County really deserves a spotlight on what's happening here today. And when we talk about growth, we have about 5,000 employees statewide that serve the people here in getting coverage. So for today's discussion, we're going to focus on economic development, manufacturing, and healthcare. We look forward to hearing from the panelists to learn more about Reedsville, Edenton, and the surrounding areas. So on behalf of Blue Cross and Blue Shield, we're welcome to be here today. Thank you.
So Blue Cross and Blue Shield of North Carolina has been a terrific partner. They have partnered for years now with the Triangle Business Journal and are creeping into the Triad, right? Well, you've been here, but we're starting to see more of you, which is really nice to see. So a couple things before we get started. I'm going to bring Lloyd up in a minute. I just want to say, I think most of you probably already know this. I'm the email guy, right? You get the email from me every day, and people get upset, I think, sometimes, but then you thank me after, right? It is, I've been places where I'm playing golf sometimes on weekdays at like 3:15, and people say, hey man, how did you just send the email? It is our news team that produces that email. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you should certainly sign up. There's a free email that keeps you informed, local business-wise, as to what's happening in the region. If you don't get it, sign up. It's triadupdate.com. You plug in your email address and hit submit. You will start seeing this. If you do business in Raleigh or in Charlotte or in Atlanta, you should certainly sign up for theirs as well. It's a great way to stay informed. We also do events. Many of you know that. Part of our role in the community is to tell the story, but also to help make connections. We have another really cool event coming on December 7th called the State of Guilford County. So if you can attend that, or if you would like to, you go to triadbizevents.com and you can check out all the various events that we do. Okay, so that's my pitch for this morning. Next up, I want to introduce you to our managing editor. He is the brains behind the operation. He's the wizard behind the curtain. He produces content. He connects with panelists. You hear his name all the time. Today you're going to hear from Lloyd Whittington, our managing editor. Please give him a warm welcome.
Good morning, Rockingham County. Is that too loud? All right. I'd like to start by thanking you, business leadership and community leadership, for being here for an important conversation. We're going to be talking today about the relative health of Rockingham County, both in terms of its physical health, but also its economic health, and actually how closely intertwined those two things can be. So it's encouraging to see a room full of people here who are interested in finding out what's working in the county, what's working in your favor, what some of the challenges may be, and what can be done about those challenges. So we also want you to be part of the conversation. We're going to reserve some time at the end for questions. So I hope you'll take notes as we progress, questions that you'd like to ask any of our panelists at the end. With that, I'd like to introduce our panelists. Dan Kreitz is a lifelong Triad resident who was born in High Point, raised in Surrey County, and spent the past 3 years as the Economic Development Director for Rockingham County. She spent 6 years previously in Economic Development in Surrey County, including 4 years leading its Economic Development Office. And then she spent 5 years with the North Carolina Department of Commerce, where she aided existing business and industries across the region with expansions and recruitment. All in all, I believe she has 15 years of experience in economic development. Next is Stokes Ann Hunt. She is a native of Rockingham County who was actually born at Cone Health's Annie Penn Hospital in Reedsville, where she is currently the Executive Director of Annie Penn Hospital Foundation and the Director of Outreach. She began her career at Watson School of Nursing, spending 15 years in Durham, before returning to Rockingham County in 1995. All told, she has more than 25 years of experience in hospital and physician quality, including time with Duke Regional Hospital and Blue Cross Blue Shield of North Carolina, and now at Annie Penn. Next, we have Darren Quessenberry, who was born and raised in Eden. He spent the vast majority of his career in Rockingham County. He's an engineering graduate of NC State, also holds an MBA from UNC Greensboro. He spent his early career in textiles at Burlington Industries, and then spent about 5 years with American Tobacco in Reedsville. He began his time with Kirsten Rugs and Mohawk Industries in Eden in 1996. He was transferred out of state, I believe, a few times, but came back to Eden in 2008 as the plant manager, which is the title he currently holds. And finally, we have Roy Watson Jr. He's a native of Birmingham, Alabama, and a graduate of the University of Alabama. He spent the past 24 years with Blue Cross Blue Shield, including the past 22 in North Carolina in the sales organization, ranging in roles from account representative to sales director. He's currently vice president of the local group segment for Blue Cross Blue Shield of North Carolina, with his territory spanning the entire state. That's 100 counties. In his role, he works in concert with business partners to develop strategies to enhance Blue Cross products and services. He spends a lot of his time educating employers and agents regarding the Affordable Care Act and whatever else our President and Congress decide moving forward. So let's give our panelists a round of applause. All right, so let's start a little bit by setting the stage. Rockingham County was, like many other Triad counties and counties across the state, hit hard over the past 3 decades by dynamic changes, especially in the manufacturing sector. Automation allowed many manufacturers to do more with fewer people, and at the same time, global pressures resulted in the offshoring of thousands of jobs. The truth is that with the concentration of textiles and tobacco in Rockingham County, it was hit harder than many other counties. But we also see some positive signs. We see some movement. We see some job creation. So let's start with a checkup, if you will, on Rockingham County's economic health. Jan, can you give us an assessment of kind of where the county's economy is right now, looking past several years?
Okay, all right, well, I'll just kind of give you the demographics that we just pulled. And so as of 2016, our population is at 91,393. And I remember when I was recruited to Rockingham County, the reported population was like 94. So between 2006 and 2016, we did have a population decline by 0.2%. Our civilian labor force is 42,888 with a participation rate of 57.1%, which that's always interesting to me that we have a participation rate of 57.1. Where's that other, what makes that other 100, up to 100%? Currently, our median household income is $38,126, with a median real estate value of $106,700. So that kind of lays the baseline of what it looks like with our wages and just the county temperature of our living here. So move to the employment trends. As of the second quarter 2017 report, our total employment was 29,307 workforce, which contributes to an increase in the region of about 1.4%. So our unemployment rate is seasonally adjusted, reported out August 2017 is 5.1%. And a year ago, August 2016, that was 5.9%. So our unemployment rate has dropped, and if you're looking at macroeconomics, we're pretty much fully employed. But, we do have workforce out there. They're not showing up though. Annual wages for, average annual wages for Rockingham County, that our office works with a lot and working with projects and incentive projects, is $33,870, which is actually an increase of 0.2% moving forward. Our cost of living in Rockingham County right now is 15% lower than the average of North Carolina. So, Rockingham County is a great place to work, to live for the low cost compared to other urban areas. So with manufacturing here, I'll just kind of lay this out. This is where I'm at most of the time, and my staff, our economic development team. We're working with industries all the time, whether it's projects, activity coming through, or with our existing industries. And proud to work with Darren and his folks, and happy to have worked with their project a few years ago. But manufacturing employees make up the majority of our industry sectors in the county. And right now, manufacturing employs 6,096 folks, and they are our bread and butter. However, healthcare is our bread and butter too. They're ranked at third, employing 3,214. Of course, number 2 is our retail wholesale. And just to give you a baseline of what our manufacturing means to Rockingham County's gross domestic product, in 2016, they contributed over $1 billion to this county. That's just huge. And healthcare contributed for the gross domestic product $183 million.
All right, so ups and downs. Miller Coors closure last year was a major blow for the county, but we've had some news announcements of late that are promising for the county. NTE Carolinas is investing $500 million to create a natural gas-fired electricity generating facility in Reedsville. Just a couple of weeks ago, Plastic Revolutions announced that it would invest $600,000 in equipment and create 35 jobs. But that follows the closure this summer of TMD West South in Reedsville, which was the elimination of 96 jobs. So we see steps forward, we see steps back. Darren, you've lived in this community for a long time. What's your general sense of kind of the community's trajectory right now?
I see a shift. Traditional manufacturing, is really what built Rockingham County. If you look back, and I'm from the Eden area, Fieldcrest Industries was Eden, North Carolina. And for many years, as those of you from this area, Fieldcrest was a primary employer in that area. As you mentioned, with the shift, jobs going offshore from the textile industry, over time that has really declined. Eden, today, the Carestand plant, which is the Mohawk Industries facility that I work at, is the only remaining Fieldcrest plant open in that region today. So we've seen a big shift from traditional textiles to obviously Gildan's a big employer now in the Eden area, so distribution. So you're seeing that trend go away from what you consider traditional manufacturing, I think, to more non-traditional things that we see in the county today. We're certainly experiencing that. Our business model has obviously changed over the years. We're known for residential carpet and rugs. That's what we really built our business on since 1928. But as Jan mentioned with a project a few years ago, we've had to change that business model. We're more of a commercial aviation carpet supplier now. So it's really just trying to change with the times and keep up with what the markets are doing.
One of the challenges for any community is kind of roll with the punches and adapt and adjust. And in the case of Miller Coors, we've got a facility there that sits on 1,600 acres of land. Jan, can you kind of update us on the efforts to kind of reposition that property, to take advantage of that as an asset and hopefully create jobs?
Yes, I have to give credit that we've had a great working partnership with the city of Eden. Mike Dockery, I don't believe he's here today, but he and I have had many closed room meetings and strategies, and some of the things that we did out of the gate was we actually bought leads from a lead generation firm to get on phone calls with, companies like Kraft, just to let them know about the building. The marketing efforts we had was submitting out to our information out to commercial brokers, to site consultants nationally. We got on the airplane, we met with folks. It's been a good, hard, hit the ground running effort to make people aware of it and to get in front of people. The international, one of the things, as sad as it all has been, and we all have lost sleep over trying to figure out a way to recruit those jobs back, but in the effort that, for the positive, we attracted so much international global attention that it was amazing to me. So Carrie and I kind of sat down and we were trying to figure out how many submissions between general inquiries, RFPs, building submissions. We probably submitted upwards of 400 to EDPNC, which is our recruiting team from the state, Commerce, National Site Consultants, commercial brokers, and then general contractors that were here too. The international exposure resulted in us having on the ground, in the country, at the site, doing tours, putting together proposals and incentive proposals that our leadership was strongly supportive of and very progressive with what we proposed, with visits from companies from Austria, Germany, China, Taiwan, and United Kingdom. I remember one company, they were interested, they worked with our county manager. They learned about it early, right after the announcement, and they stayed tied in, communicating with our county manager, Lance. We courted them like crazy, and they just finally had to make a business decision that it wasn't financially viable for their opportunity, but it was a good lead. And currently we have a strong lead. We're working with the state. Our state leadership has been very proactive. Secretary of Commerce Tony Copeland's been here. Of course, Senator Berger has been a strong advocate and helping in many ways that you read about in the paper, as well as our governor, both former Governor McCory and current Governor Cooper. So I feel like everyone is supporting us all across the state. They always inquire, they always ask, but we still have to keep on getting it. And we feel like we have a strong lead right now, but it is a due diligence process that it will be a year or more.
I believe I heard that Edgar, the wood products company that selected Davidson County for $700 million plant, 770 jobs actually, looked at this facility.
They were the Austrian company that recorded, so yeah, we were competing with our own tribe.
Right. So in a case like that, do you ever get feedback from those who are visiting on pros and cons, or maybe how they arrived at their decision on Davidson County versus this facility?
I wish we did get a report card more often, but it's usually not. But during the conversations and in the meetings, the client visits are usually pretty intense, and all of our partners are there. The one thing that the Austrian wood company, thing that they were trying to work with the most and trying to configure how they're railed, because they're heavily rail, and although Miller Coors has got strong rail infrastructure there, it just was not configured right. It would not have been, it was really better for them to start new and just lay out the rail like they needed it to supply their facility and to move the product.
So is the idea to land one big giant super user, or to divide up the land and attract multiple tenants, or?
Well, I think everybody would love to think that we have a mega park in our backyard. One of the things that's been brought to light in working with the due diligence of a current client that's looking at it is the permitting, your air quality permitting, the state permitting, the federal permitting, you have to have buffer and boundaries. So at this time, we would have to do a pretty intensive, our engineering friends out here know what I'm talking about. We will have to do a pretty significant study to assess what buffer they have to maintain. And even though the Miller Coors facility is lying on a 350 acre campus, we don't know how much of that 1,600 acres has to be maintained as a buffer for the industry itself, if it were to stay a brewery, or another industry. So all those are things that is not in my bailiwick. I don't understand all that or know that, but knowing that has helped me to understand that we can't jump out of the gate and think we can start chopping up the land right now either. So.
But the activity that you've gotten has been a very mixed, brokers, salvage companies.
Yeah, we've had some salvage companies, because I know when, I can't remember exactly when it was, but we had an open house with Miller Coors. Jones Lang LaSalle, or JLL, is the commercial broker that has the property listed. And so they had an open house. They invited themselves 1,000 commercial brokers to come in on an open house. Of course, our team, our economic development team, we were all there to host and facilitate any questions about the community and along with City of Eden. The main thing that we worried about with that was, we don't want to see it, torn apart and sold off for the parts. So much has happened over other business and industries in the textile world. So when those folks came, which was the majority of the visitors, we were a little bit discouraged. We didn't want to see that. And that hurts our tax base, because that's a $130 million tax base sitting there that benefits the city of Eden and the county. So I didn't really like meeting them and seeing them folks.
Let's turn here to Stokes Ann. Can you speak to how something like the Miller Coors closure ripples throughout the community beyond just the paychecks? It's not just whether they're employed.
Absolutely. One of the ripple effects was the Ball Corporation in Reedsville, so we lost that plant. And then there are the employees that have commercial insurance. So those employees were seeing providers and healthcare facilities and hospitals in this county. So when they move away, that good commercial insurance goes with them. Commercial insurance pays higher than what we have a lot of Medicare and a lot of Medicaid in this county. So that helps support our local healthcare industry. And then just being a corporate citizen. Miller Coors was a wonderful corporate citizen. So think about some of our community campaigns. United Way, for example. There was corporate gifts to our United Way, our Rockingham County United Way campaign. And then there were the individual employees that worked for Miller Coors that donated to that campaign and other campaigns that we have in the county. So all of those would be impacted from Miller Coors leaving.
So we see a pretty strong correlation between the economic health of a region and also its physical health. Stokes Ann, can you kind of give us the lay of the land, of an assessment, if you will, of what this county's health risks look like, health status?
Sure. We have a lot of challenges in this county, and one thing that Annie Penn, Warhead, our health department, and many of you in this room have helped with was our community health needs assessment. And that is something a community does every 3 to 4 years, depending on, this is the first year we have partnered with our health department to do that. So our community health needs assessment has looked at the priorities that this community will need. And this year, we came up with these 3 areas. Access to care, and I'm going to speak to that a little bit. Physical activity and nutrition, and that is focusing on diabetes. We have a high rate of obesity and diabetes in this county. And I think just at Annie Penn, we have 60 to 70% of our admissions have some type of diagnosis of diabetes. And then the third priority that this community health needs assessment came up with is education for this county. So speaking to access to care, we have a shortage of primary care physicians in this county. Rockingham County has 4.7 primary care physicians for every 10,000 residents that we have. So compare that to our state average, which is 7.9, and in Guilford County, they have 8.1. So we know that we have an aging population of residents. We have an aging population of physicians. I know at Cone Health and Annie Penn, we have about 53% of our physicians that are over the age of 55. So those are physicians we need to start succession planning on now to work on replacing them. And some of the recruitment for physicians, for example, a GI physician, it takes you at least a couple of years to get a physician to a rural area. When you think medical students, only about 3% of medical students practice in a rural area. So it's a smaller pool that we have to pull from. Then we have, I think I mentioned our aging population, and then chronic disease in this area. We talked about diabetes, but there's heart disease, there's cardiac disease. So all of that builds, and when we have residents that do not have good insurance, and 16% of our residents in this county are uninsured. So they have no means of payment for their health care. So they're not going to receive their preventive health, and they're not going to receive the treatment that they need for that chronic disease. And then the chronic disease gets worse, and then they're catastrophic. They come to our EDs and our inpatient, and then that increases our healthcare cost.
I want to pull in Roy here. Just from an insurer's perspective, kind of what do you see when you look at Rockingham County?
Well, some of the things that Stokes and just mentioned really line up with what we see as well. And the three things that she spoke of, access to care, physical activity, and education, are actually tenets of the things that we offer as a health insurance company to our individuals and to employers out there that actually have our coverage. That is very, very important to us to be able to offer that type of those types of programs where we can get people more physically active, which is a part of routine wellness care that we offer to our employers and to our individuals out there in the marketplace as well. Those three things line up perfectly with what we offer in our coverage offerings and in the programs and services that we have at Blue Cross.
So can some of these health trends that we see, some of these health risk factors, come into play in economic development as prospective employers look at the area for jobs, to put jobs here or to invest in facilities?
Oh, absolutely. And I think this is a great little card here, if you take a look at it. I think when employers are coming to any area that they're looking to expand their business or bring their business to, they're looking at the population, and they're going to look at the health of the population. They're going to look at the people in the community. And what they're looking for are people who are going to be present and active. Healthcare, if you're in a bad health situation, those particular individuals will not be able to have the presenteeism that they need, which leads to higher productivity for that employer, which if they're producing very high, they also are actually able to invest in their business versus in the health care of those employees. So that is very important to an employer that's looking to move into any area, in any market across North Carolina.
On the access to care kind of topic, Stokes Ann, can you tell us a little bit about the reopening of the Clara F. Gunn Community Health Center in August and kind of what led to that?
Sure. So for those of you that do not know, we had a federally qualified health center in Rockingham County, and of course that's federal funding for those that are uninsured and underinsured. That was through Triad Adult and Pediatric Medicine, which is out of Guilford County. So they opened a satellite here about 4 years ago with funding from Kate B. Reynolds. And they notified us the 1st of April that they would be closing that site. So it was over 500 patients that were taken care of in that site. And it was located in the Reedsville Housing Authority on 3rd Avenue in Reedsville. So that was very concerning to us because we already have access to care issues. We have a primary care physician shortage. So where are these patients going to receive care? So what Cone Health did with that access to care issue is we have reopened that site. And so from just April till August, it opened on August the 21st, we opened a new model of care, which may be something that this county can use going forward or other rural counties, because we're not the only ones that are having problems recruiting physicians. So what this model of care looks like is we have 10 nurses, and that stands for People Engaged in Neighborhood Nursing, and that's our congregational care nurse program. So we have a larger program in Guilford County. We have a satellite of that here in Rockingham County. And that was able to supply us with an RN who has already worked with our underserved population all over Rockingham County, because those nurses are in Eden, Reidsville, Western Rock. And we hired an LPN, bilingual LPN, and they will see these patients. So they're open 4 days a week, and there's no cost, no charge for patients to come to this site. So when the patients need to be seen by a physician, we have telehealth there. So we have a computer that has MD Live on that computer screen, and the nurse actually puts in all of her assessment of the patient, and the physician's right there. So it's a virtual visit with a physician. But you talk to the physician, they communicate with the patient, nurse is there to help these patients with that technology. And if the patients, so a lot of these patients had not been seen since Claire F. Gunn exited this community. A lot of them needed prescription refills. We had a patient, we just heard a story yesterday, a patient whose blood pressure was so high when they saw him, he was at stroke level. And then they logged on, talked with a physician, physician affirmed what the nurse had told the patient. Patient is sent directly to our emergency department, and he came back to them and said, "You probably saved my life." And he saw a stroke patient come in while he was in our ED, and he saw the effects of getting treatment and what that did. So this is a model of care that includes technology and maybe a way that we can expand our services here in Rockingham County.
Can I footnote something
Sure,
on that?
sure,
And I think that was one of the things I was thinking about to access to care, which is the use of technology. I think we miss the use of technology and access to care. Telehealth is growing and it's expanding, and we need to continue to look at how we increase the benefits of telehealth across medical services. They help to reduce costs. It helps the patient, because if a patient can't physically get to that provider, telehealth can help them get there. Can help them get the services that they need. Physicians can prescribe and do certain things via telehealth as well. So we absolutely need to utilize technology as much as we possibly can to help continue to provide the access to care that patients need in the community.
Access to care is a priority, and one of the biggest concerns right now in this community, in Rockingham County, is the bankruptcy of Moorhead Memorial. We're only days away from the auction of its assets, and I know Cone Health's Jim Ronskelly has acknowledged that Cone is among those that have been looking at those assets. Stokes Ann, can you speak to Cone's level of interest right now?
Right, well, I can tell you we are evaluating the process, the bankruptcy proceedings, and we'll be guided by our commitment to take care of the residents of Rockingham County. So it is sad, they're not unique. I mean, we have been a solo hospital. We feel their pain, and there are other hospitals that go through this same process.
Can we speak, I know obviously it's kind of in negotiations and that's to be settled. Can you speak more generically to what's at stake, whoever ends up owning those assets?
Well, what's at stake is the health of the residents of Rockingham County. So if we're already having access to care issues, so we already have access points or medical homes that may be going away if they exit, we would want those to remain. So if someone comes in and buys them, what's at stake is those patients' care. So I know we all like to keep our patients as close to the care as we can. We have a lot of transportation barriers in Rockingham County, so they can't necessarily go to any of the contiguous counties around us to access medical care. So I think one of the biggest things if someone comes in is to make sure that they have medical offices, medical homes that those patients can go to, and then there's always urgent care or emergency care you think about. There's still mileage in between Eden and any other facility around, and a lot of times when I mentioned that stroke patient, you know, getting those stroke patients, and that's a good example, you only have a limited amount of time from the time they start their symptoms to the time you give them treatment. So having care close to home would be very important.
I wanted to get Roy, you to weigh in on this if you could. How do you see that scenario playing out? I mean, what?
Well, it's similar to what Stokes has already indicated. What people here in this county are going to, I think, are going to care about is, am I going to be able to get the services and the health care that I need, whomever purchases the hospital, whomever is the one that ends up with those assets. Am I going to be able to continue to get the healthcare I need? Healthcare is local. We all know and understand that. Healthcare is local, and I'm going to want to be able to get the services that I need when I need them at the right time. And that's what's going to be most important to the people here, in my opinion. They're going to want to get those services and understand that they're still going to have that access to quality healthcare, whomever comes in and gets the hospital.
Is it reasonable to think that whoever buys it is going to look for ways to operate more cost efficiencies, restructure, doing things differently?
I would imagine so. I would think that whomever would come in would look and say, what are the services that are most needed here? What are the things that are going on within the residents of the population? And provide those services as much as they possibly can if they have the means to do so. I think that's going to be important. Understanding what it is that the region needs and providing and meeting that need of the region.
I want to pull in Darren here. From an employer's perspective, so how does the outcome with Moorhead affect you and your employees?
It'll be critical for our employees. Obviously, as a business, we have a partnership. We utilize Moorhead as well because they're less than a half mile away from our facility. So in emergency situations, obviously that's our go-to. So that'll change our emergency plans if we have issues that we need to deal with. But from an employee standpoint, it's brought a lot of stress on our people right now. The majority of our population is from the Eden or southern part of Virginia. We draw employees from the Ridgeway, Martinsville area of Virginia as well, and they utilize Moorhead Hospital as their facility. So we're very concerned about that, and we're keeping a watch on what's going to happen with this.
So we've talked about some ups and downs, kind of a few steps forward, a few steps back. Darren, your company, Mohawk, was a success story a year ago. You were able to secure some incentives. A lot of work went into that effort to create 105 jobs locally and create the capacity to triple production, I believe. So give us a snapshot of kind of what went into that decision, what led to that expansion here, and what was involved in it.
Well, as I said, our facility's been in Eden since 1928 as CareStan. Most people knew us by that title. Mohawk bought us in 1993, and we became part of the larger corporation. And Mohawk, as an entity, is the largest flooring company in the world. We do hardwoods, we do carpet, we do tiles. So we're involved in all aspects of flooring. Woven carpet is what we produce, woven carpet and rugs. Over time, that industry itself in woven has declined with technology advancements in things like tufted carpet in the industry. So Mohawk decided about 3 years ago we needed a consolidation of woven plants, and it came down really between the Eden facility, which was a woven carpet plant, and we had a sister plant in Landrum, South Carolina. So the decision was, we need to consolidate to one facility, get all of our woven assets at one location to improve our efficiencies. It became a contest at that point between us and South Carolina. I'll say favorable things about Jan and Mike with the City of Eden really came to bat for us. We partnered with economic development. We were able to call upon the state, and they were very responsive to our needs. It was a tough few weeks, I guess, Jan. But through that, we were able to partner with the state and with the City of Eden and Rockingham County, and came away with some incentives that allowed us to be more competitive with the plant in South Carolina, able to win that business for Eden. So it was a good additive. We added 105 jobs. We introduced a new business to the community we hadn't seen before, which was aviation carpet. We had never really woven aviation transportation carpet here in the county. So from that, we're now the largest aviation carpet supplier in the country.
I would be remiss, but I have to throw Golden Leaf in there. Because
Absolutely.
without Golden Leaf coming to the rescue, that gap that the financial gap that we were missing, they delivered it, and we were able to win the project.
It was an 11th hour Hail Mary, and Golden Leaf really helped us out there. Yeah, absolutely.
So how, kind of update us, how have things gone in the past year? I know it's cycles and so forth.
Yeah, business is cyclical. The project itself went well. It took us about a year and a half to complete machinery moves and build additional capacity to our site. In excess of $10 million investment when it's all said and done. So it went very well. We've been up running at full capacity now for about 9 months. So with business cycles, anytime you're in manufacturing, you see those highs and lows, and even the aviation carpet business is cyclical. Airlines don't land planes in the summer to be renovated. They wait till fall and winter. They keep the summer tourists in the air. So, we've seen a little decline over the summer, but we're still very stable right now. I'm very optimistic for the future.
Okay. So you got up to probably 300 employees. What are you running around now?
We were just under 300. We're now a little over 270, 275.
Okay. Okay. So were you able to find the talent that you needed as you were ramping up? That's a lot of people to add in over a period of time.
Yeah, timing's everything. Sometimes when you're looking at hiring folks, and unfortunately with the Miller closure, for them, it did add a little more trained workforce, available for us. So we were able to hire really some technical people from Miller from that, so we filled that gap as best we could. But we were successful. Our turnover through our hiring process of adding 105 jobs was relatively low. We were able to retain most of those people. So I think if you look at the county as a whole, we still have a very good workforce out there. We're able to pull good people, and we do draw a little from Southern Virginia, but most of our workforce is from the county.
Do you find that benefits are really key in attracting and retaining talent?
Well, in listening to the conversation on healthcare, I believe with healthcare costs the way they are today, any advantage you can have in recruiting people helps. So we've been able to partner with our insurance carrier and some of the local providers in Eden to offer some things that we believe are maybe a little unique and certainly different than we've done in the past that help us attract better people. I think employees no longer make decisions purely on wages. When you look at healthcare being sometimes a large part of where your income goes, they're looking at what benefits are out there to help reduce their overall cost to them personally. So we try to use healthcare now as a recruiting tool, but we also have a very senior workforce, older workforce in our. That was low. You can edit that out. We have a wise, seasoned workforce. You might need a drink for that. If you look at our workforce, the demographics of our population within the plant, our workforce averages more than 25 years of service. And we've gone through some retirement in the last year that's maybe reduced that a little. But when you start looking at a more senior workforce, obviously healthcare becomes more important. So we've partnered with our healthcare providers as well as our insurance company to do an on-site wellness clinic, which is something that in the heyday, when you had lots of employees, we actually hired a full-time nurse that was on our property every day. As times changed, that went away. So we've now partnered. We have a local healthcare provider who we have one of their physician's assistants in our facility twice a week, along with a registered nurse that works there. They're working with wellness programs for our employees. We can do some acute care as well on site. We could not afford to do that our own, so we partnered with our sister plant in Danville, Virginia, which is a Columbia wood flooring plant. So their facility 3 days a week and our facility 2 days a week. So that enables us to offer an incentive for new hires, but it also helps us with the wellness of our more senior workforce, because if we can keep them healthy, they're at work more regularly, it reduces our overall cost for manufacturing. So it's been a win-win for us at this point.
So Roy, Stokes Hand had referenced some of the statistical information about the uninsured population here in the county. From your perspective, what's the greatest challenge? Is it an awareness of healthcare that is available? Is it the cost of healthcare benefits, or is it misperception?
It's the number one challenge from a healthcare standpoint. Some of the things we talked about is costs. Costs are critical. We have a tremendous focus on affordability. One of the things we talk about quite a bit is how competitive are we? And when I say competitive, how do I stack up against the rest of the companies that I compete with in my industry? Well, you have to put competitiveness aside for a moment and talk about the overall affordability. And why is that the case? I can be very competitive out there with competitors, but if no one can afford to buy it, it doesn't matter if all of us are sitting at the same place from a rating perspective. So what's important is the affordability equation. How do we get to more affordability when it comes to healthcare. And that's the major challenge that we have. There are some reasons, there are a lot of reasons why healthcare is not as affordable as it needs to be and why people are having a tough time affording health insurance. And that's one of the things I think is a misnomer as well, that I want to make sure that is understood. Health insurance premiums are just a reflection of healthcare costs. That's what health insurance premiums are, a reflection of healthcare costs. As healthcare costs go up, health insurance premiums will go up right along with them. And I think that's something to make sure that we all understand. But how do we hit that healthcare cost equation? One is we as individuals have to take a little more personal responsibility. And I think those are some great things that Darren and his team are doing at Mohawk Industries to help their employees get engaged. Because that's the first thing is, if I am not engaged and I don't want to be engaged, I'm never going to get any healthier. If I know that I have some chronic conditions going on and I can't get to a provider, or I don't want to get to a provider because, hey, I just don't want to do it, then that's going to be a problem. That's going to cause healthcare costs to rise. And there's some other things as well. We're trying to get to more of what we call a value-based system. And that is where you're actually paying for outcomes to providers versus paying for the number of services that providers perform. And that's where the system is moving. That's where the industry is moving. So just to kind of give you a layman's example, if someone needs to have knee surgery or knee replacement, if you will, one provider could do 4 MRIs to get to the fact that they need knee replacement. One provider could do 1, and they still have the knee replacement and have a similar outcome. So that's where we talk about paying for the outcome and not just the number of services. So value-based care and value-based reimbursement is very important as we move forward in this industry to try to help control some of the healthcare costs. Prescription drugs is another. Our prescription drug trend is up. This represents 22% of our total medical costs. That's huge. 22% of our total medical costs is from prescription drugs. And that's a big piece that we've got to solve for over time. And right now, we, of course, look at our formularies. We do a lot of different things to try to impact lowering that or actually telling that spend off somewhat. Not going to turn the curve down totally, but we're trying to minimize the amount of spend on prescription drugs through some of the programs and services that we offer within our products. So those are the things. Affordability is the number one issue, if you will, when it comes to healthcare in the marketplace.
I want to transition here a little bit, if we can, to workforce readiness. Darren, I know in what you've done at Consolidation, you've brought in some different jobs, some different roles, maybe even in the past year as part of that managing cycles. Are you having to go through extensive retraining with your workforce?
There's been quite a bit of retraining, and with the additional jobs that came in, this industry is somewhat unique to our area, so all of our new hires had to go through a pretty extensive training program. So for us, the vocational education is more important today than it ever has been. I think with technology advancements you see in the industry, having a skilled workforce that comes out with some knowledge from a vocational standpoint gives us a bit of an advantage there. So that's where our needs are.
I think I want to transition to Jan. I know one of the most exciting things I heard in my conversation with you leading up to this was some of the things that you're doing on the workforce readiness front. Can you talk a little bit about Reset Rockingham and kind of where that's at right now?
Yes, thank you. Well, Rockingham County realized once we started, our team go out and meet with industries all the time and discussing with projects what their priorities are, and workforce issues seem to be paramount for everybody. So our team, and I have to give brags to everybody, but we really began to form a workforce team, and everyone equally has jumped in, and I think we have a great partnership that's ever been. And that's with the Rockingham County Schools K through 12, the Rockingham County Schools Foundation, Goodwill Industries, I see my buddy sitting in the back, NC Works, Rockingham Community College, Rockingham Community College Foundation, Piedmont Triad Regional Council, Workforce Development Board, Miss Wendy's in the back. We all sat and said, what do we need to do? This is not just the Rockingham County, this is an actual, almost an epidemic. So what are the challenges? So the industry sat down and said, look, the soft skills is, we need folks that's got a great attitude. that, they don't have to be completely skilled, but they gotta be willing to learn and show up and be on time and stay all day and, stay off their phones and it just went on. And then there's the drug issue as some of the challenge. So, last year, our former colleague, Sean Gorman, he worked to coordinate all these, relationships and set about, working with the partners to launch Reset Rockingham. Reset Rockingham is our branding for everyone to work together, different initiatives. And under the Reset Rockingham umbrella, we, first initiative was the Work Ready Certified Community. This is something that Margaret Commissioner Richardson tasked and challenged us to figure out what it was and how we could be a part of it. And what a Work Ready Certified Community is it tells an employer looking at the area and an employee that's here, hey, look, I'll be able to screen people that I'm hiring, reduce turnover rate, if I know coming in some level of what that skill capacity is for each of those individuals that's applying. Every one of our Virginia counties have this. Every one of our South Carolina counties have this. If we are successful in accomplishing this in the next 6 months and becoming a certified, we'll be the first one in the triad, the first county in the triad. And all of our partners are working diligently to accommodate that. So that's the first initiative under Reset Rockingham. National Manufacturing Day, we wanted to honor our manufacturers. This is a national holiday or a recognition. All these same partners and our county commissioner leadership said, look, we want our existing industries as a retention to know how much we appreciate them and what value they bring to our tax base and to our community and quality of life. So they were a big part of that. So National Manufacturing Day, Wendy got us going on that, I'll have to say. And when I left her champion cheerleading event, I said, well, Rockingham County's gonna do the best in this program, and we did. Sally Newman is sitting here somewhere. She led the charge, had 15 gazillion meetings with all of us to make sure that we are all on course, and we had a successful week. The county commissioners recognized our top 5 employers, and they really appreciated it. Not all of them were in attendance, but I delivered one of the plaques yesterday to Frontier, and they were just ecstatic and really appreciated. It's about welcoming and making them feel like they, we appreciate them, and keeping them. The next initiative under the Work Ready is this, we wanted to work with the schools to get them what they needed. Citizens Economic Development, I haven't mentioned them yet, but they are made up of several people that are on the board in this room. Citizen Economic Development is our foundation to help supplement some of the needs that we need to do in the county economic development and tourism office. And they took the charge. They, along with other folks, have written checks to help this workforce initiative to get these tests paid for and get the high school kids trained. I'm missing one of our other initiatives. I can't think now what it was, but what is it? Oh, yeah. Oh, the most important thing. Yeah, and I got the brochure sitting here. Sorry, thank you, Laura. So the last initiative that we've taken on is with the assistance and the partnership across the county line, and I'm so proud of, is Guilford Apprenticeship Program. I have a lot of work friends that I worked with when I was with the state down there. They graciously jumped on board to help our Rockingham County group launch this Rockatop program. Kenny Scott, Laura, again, Ken in my office here, several people worked together to help get this going along with Rockingham County School Foundation. And this will, and don't let me forget about Alamance, because Alamance Apprenticeship Program, they've all been here. They have engaged our industries. They've decided, okay, we gotta have a labor pool of workers in the future. Our aging workforce is gonna require that. So let's start working with our high school kids. So starting with juniors and seniors, right now they're in the process of courting students that are interested, and these students are going through orientation, visiting industries right now. But in 4 years' time, our high schoolers, our kids, are going to be able to have free college tuition, paid on the job training. They get paid go to school, their books are paid for by the employer, they earn an associate's degree, a high school degree, a journeyman certificate from the Department of Labor, which is translatable to any state, as well as a work-ready, work-key certification, which is translatable to any county or any state. And they have a full-time job when they complete it. So some of the industries that were helping us, and the main driver is machine specialties incorporated in Witsit, right outside of Greensboro city limits. But Tammy Simmons has been instrumental in helping us with our team to get this going. So we can't wait till next year at the State of Rockingham to share what the outcome is going to be, because so far Guilford's had 2 successful years of graduates. I mean, they run it like an NFL draft. So they're promoting those kids the day the scholarships and are given out at the high school senior level. Those kids are sitting there going, how did they get that $125,000 scholarship and have a job? And their parents are going yahoo, because they've had money all the way through, they've had a job, and then they don't have debts when they get through. And some of the programs that we're working with right now, and then Rockingham Community College, Dr. Kinlaw and his team, they're so engaged to make sure that we have the training facilities, state-of-the-art training facilities, that they will be able to meet these education pathways: machining, welding, mechatronics, engineering, technology. So the careers are CNC machinist, robotics, electrical, electronics, tool and die, automation, engineering. Just goes on, but you can see why I get excited about it, and I'm really happy to be a part of the group that's leading the charge on this.
So it's one thing to have an able and ready workforce. It's another to have buildings available, space to put them to attract business and industry. Can you give us an update on kind of efforts that are in the works to maybe build some shell buildings? Right now we're just trying to work on how we can partner. We're really working on the language with our legal, just to see how can we enter into a private-public partnership with our private development folks to build one. We have square footage available right now. I just got back from Chicago, met with face-to-face with 11 consultants, and all they really want to know is, what product do you have and what's your infrastructure like? So if you look at the total, we have probably 3,000 square feet of available building space and probably 6,000 acres of land. But it's the quality of, Tom Towns is here somewhere. It's the quality. Mr. Tom Towns tried commercial. Yeah. It's the quality of our buildings. And so if you look at the quality of our buildings, we have VF, which Tom just shared with me this morning, is considered a Class B. We have
That's 160,000.
160,000 square feet. We have Ball, which, would you say they're a Class B too, Ball Corporation?
Yeah.
Yep, so that's 450,000 square feet. And then Miller Coors, which is, just ginormous. But after that, what do you do with the folks that are looking for 50,000 square feet or 100,000 square feet with, 35 to 40 foot ceilings? We don't have a Class A building. So this is something our leadership, our county commissioners, and our county manager, our cities, managers, and their board, they all realize that we need this, but just trying to figure out the timing and the investment and how we're going to pay for it. But there are some initiatives going on. City of Eden has been leading the charge and working with some of our legislators on what there is out there that can help us with tools so that we reduce and mitigate any risk and liability to the taxpayers. But we do need those buildings to bring people here. Once we fill Miller Coors and we fill Ball, how am I going to market? What am I going to use to attract just the looks? You get a lot of looks, and it's hard to land somebody if you don't get a lot of looks. So it's a sales and marketing game.
It sounds like it may be more the 50,000 square foot and the 60, more in that range than the 160 or 200,000.
When if you ask the Department of Commerce and Economic Development Partnership, and they run their totals, their projects, especially with all this foreign direct investment coming to the to the US right now and look and, based on the federal politics, no, it's been greater than that. It's been like 400 million.
Oh, wow.
So but we can't do that. We can't, I'm worried about getting a 50,000 square foot building.
Right. Well, let's talk a little bit about the 3,500 acre Berry Hill Regional Mega Park near Danville, Virginia. Recently landed $2 million in federal funds, projected to create over 7,500 jobs over time. I know there's considerable upside to the city of Eden in leveraging its water resources. They need water users. But from Rockingham County's perspective, is that competition as you're trying to reposition the Miller Quarters facility, or is it we'd love to have those jobs and be able to, for our residents to be able to commute? How do you look at that?
Oh, yeah, it hurts my heart a little bit because they are competition, especially when they landed the Indiva project, which we probably put in, our staff and economic development probably put in 400 hours trying to get them here, showed them every square piece of dirt in the county, we felt like. That would have been another 500 million. Well, it may have been about $100 million project, loud, noisy, dirty, and we were working it. Ken Allen and I was working with Carrie, and we really pushed everything and more to get them here. So, the successful part of Berry Hill, Pennsylvania County, I like to say we're all friendly, my counterpart and colleagues in Virginia, but we do benefit. So the downside is I lost a project to them. The upside is you've got a 3,825 acre site that's a true mega park that's looking pretty daggone good. It's got 13 parcels ranging from 98 acres to 1,296 acres. The largest parcel site is like 1,296. Pad size of that would be 604 acres. So they definitely could put an Amazon or something crazy big in there. Or an automotive too. But the benefit for the city of Eden is being able to provide them water, and they just made another announcement up there too, the Southern Company Power Facility. So they've already got 2 projects. The sewer line has been run from Eden to the Virginia state line. Permits have been obtained to run the line from the state line to Industrial Park, and that's a $2 million grant you're talking about from Economic Development Administration. And then there's a $1.8 million grant that was awarded from the State Department of Environmental Quality. So this is a big baby for Mike Doherty in the city of Eden because he does see the workforce having an opportunity. He sees some utility return fees. It's a positive and a negative, but it's still going to be good for us too, because if you do recruit a huge automotive or aviation or whatever, the fallout of that is there are suppliers and vendors that have to locate nearby. So if they want to be on the Rockingham County side, we'll certainly help them.
So we've talked a lot about kind of recruiting jobs and industry. Stokes-Ann, you're well acquainted with efforts to recruit physicians. You spoke to some of those challenges a few minutes ago. What are some of the ways that you attract specialists? What are some of the strategic ways that you're looking? How can we accommodate physicians, get them here, shared space, or other ways to make it cost efficient for them to be in this county?
Sure. So as we mentioned earlier, technology. So when I recruit, Coon Help has a large recruiting department, so they kind of cast out the big net. When they have someone interested in Rockingham County, and I help with all of Rockingham County, then I kind of take over and we'll set up interviews and set up tours, and we'll show them what our community has and of course doesn't have. One of the things we do not have is a target. That's the #1 question I'm asked from a physician or their spouse. The first thing they'll say, do you have a target? So the good thing is we are close enough proximity to Greensboro or to Winston-Salem or to the bigger towns that you can get to those in not a lot of time. So we do promote the technology we have. When we tour Annie Penn Hospital, we have an ICU that is connected electronically to Greensboro. So there's an intensivist, a physician that specializes in intensive care that monitors our patients 24/7. Now, of course, we have ICU nurses that are there all the time, but there's a monitor that actually turns on when a patient is admitted to those rooms, and that monitor is so precise, it can tell if a patient's pupils are dilated or can read the time on a watch. So those physicians are constantly monitoring our patients from afar, but those patients get that same technology. We have telehealth. We've talked about telehealth. We have neurology and telepsych in our emergency department. So we have patients that will keep an emergency department bed at Annie Penn, and I'm sure at all of our facilities. And until they're safe to go home, we have to have a visit with a psychiatrist that can deem them being safe to themselves and safe to others. So if we didn't have that telepsych there, a psychiatrist to pull up that computer and do that virtual visit and change those meds or assess that patient to go home, they're holding up beds for patients that are having a heart attack or a stroke. So when we bring in physicians to look at this area, I think technology is big. I think our location, Rockingham County, we have abundant resources, so we have to sell that. It is a sales and marketing game, even in the physician world. So we are located, as you know, between the beach and the mountains, and our bylaws do not require that physicians have to live in Rockingham County. And again, we're lucky that we're in close enough proximity. They can live in another county and commute, which is how a lot of our specialists do. We encourage them to live in Rockingham County, and I share our resources with them, but unless they're on call, an on-call physician has to live within 30 minutes, but that is still, you can live in the Guilford County and still commute. So those are the things we highlight to get physicians here.
Right. What about specialists? There may not be enough demand for specialists to operate every day of the week here. Kind of a shared space approach that you talked about.
Good question. So we have a timeshare. And then that timeshare, Cone Health has staff that's in there. An example of that is in a medical office building right across from the hospital. We have Alliance Urology, which is a big urology group. They can cover Alamance County, Guilford County, and Rockingham County. They bring in urologists 3 days a week. And then we have an ENT physician who comes from Greensboro. So that ENT physician is there 2 days a week. And we have similar timeshares in Madison and other places. So you're right, if we don't have the volume to keep that specialist busy, then we can bring them here so many days. And as their volume increases, or as residents realize that we have that, for example, the ENT, he's been here 1 day a week until June. And in June, he put that second day in, and I would say within a month, his calendar was full, and he's about 2 months out now for an appointment. So that's a good way for us to monitor the volume and how many patients are utilizing our specialist here.
Extension of resources through nurse practitioners, physician assistants.
That is going to be key for future growth. So one physician can supervise 2 advanced practitioners. And an advanced practitioner, you may be familiar with the terminology of a mid-level provider or an extender of care. That's our nurse practitioners, our PAs. So we are recruiting more of those to come here because we could set up an office with a physician and have several advanced practitioners in that practice. One of the things Annie Penn is doing to encourage our staff to get advanced degrees is we have a program that we are offering our staff members if they would like to pursue an education and get a PA or a nurse practitioner degree. We sign a commitment form and we will pay for their entire tuition, and then they sign a commitment to work for Cone Health. We will try in Rockingham County first, and we think we have enough need, we can place those people. And then if not, we will place them somewhere within Cone Health. So they'll work for us depending on which degree, 3 or 4 years. And then that gets them educated, tuition paid for, and then comes back as a provider to provide care in this county.
This may be a silly question, I don't know, but do health systems have the latitude to pay higher salaries in a given territory to be more appealing?
No, that is a good question. We do have an incentivized plan to incentivize physicians to work in a rural health area. As I said, we already have a low pool of physicians to pull from to recruit to rural areas. So we are lucky that Cone Health Medical Group has allowed incentives to work with recruiting physicians here. We also have donations that have been given to the Annie Penn Hospital Foundation. Just recently, I had been given a donation, and actually it was a pledge. And the pledge was, this is an amount of money you can have if you can recruit a physician within 1 year. So we just got a general surgeon who started in April or May, and we used that money to help recruit him here.
So we talked today about efforts to make the workforce here more compelling, to leverage that to land jobs. We talked about shell buildings and using those as a tool to attract. We've talked about different ways to extend health care and to be more cost effective in how we do that. Still, one of the biggest concerns is, can employers afford to provide coverage for their employees? Roy, can you offer us any hope of relief on that front?
Yeah, no pressure at all. If I had that silver bullet, I wouldn't be sitting here. I think it goes back to some of the things I've talked about and what we are trying to do and what we need to do as an industry to rein in costs. Because again, not to repeat myself, but affordability is an issue. That's what most employers are demanding. More affordable health care. They're demanding it from not only the health insurer, but they're demanding it from their providers as well. They're talking to their providers about, how are you providing my employees a higher quality of care at a less expensive cost? And we are working together with our employers and our individuals that have our coverage and with our provider partners to try to accomplish that goal. It is a humongous task because we got to this point over a long period of time. We did not get here overnight where costs are just rising and we've gotten to this point to where it's so large. It took us many, many years to get here. So now we as an industry are going to have to work to get us back to where we were many years ago. We talked about the GDP before. Healthcare costs represent about 18% of our total GDP right now. That's huge. By 2020, it's probably going to be about 20% or so. So by 2024, I think is the number I read, about 20% or so. So that is a tremendous task for us as an industry and as a country, really. And then you boil that down into specific cities and counties. So we have to do a better job of the things I talked about before. We've got to take better care of ourselves. We have to look at our prescription drug costs, look at programs that helps reduce those prescription drug costs, paying for value, not just for quantity of services. Those are the things that are going to eventually help to get us there. But it will not happen overnight, and we have to have those partnerships with our employers and our providers, all of us coming along together on the healthcare journey in order to reduce healthcare costs. We can't bicker and fight against each other. We've got to work together to make it happen. And I think we've made some strides as an organization with a lot of provider partners out there to make it happen.
I want to bring up something that's been in the news actually in the past week. President Trump signed an executive order to allow small businesses and potentially individuals to buy association health plans that kind of skirt some of the state regulations and affordable care protections. Is that a viable option as employers and employees are looking at this?
So association health plans are not new, first of all. And the executive order that the president signed really gave the Secretary of Labor the opportunity to create rules to determine how you can operate association health plans. They can be good, and what it does, it basically allows small employers to band together, so you try to get the law of large numbers on your side to help spread risk, which is what a large employer does. You got more people, you have more risk that you can spread over the population. Invariably, though, what happens in an association health plan, and not to get too technical, but it's a fully insured type program where the insurance carrier is taking the risk. And this is what is trying to come to pass now. So you have a lot of small employers banding together to try to get a great price on an insurance product. And over time, they can have that great price for a year, 2 years. But as the pool continues to get worse from a health risk perspective, individual companies within that pool will say, hey, the rates are rising too quickly in this pool. I'm going to get out. and go get a better rate on my own, because I can go to whomever XYZ insurance carrier and I can get a better rate on my own. Well, what happens to the pool? You leave the pool with all the groups and employers who don't have the best risk. So now you have what we call a death spiral of the pool. So the pool just continues to decline, rates continue to go up, and the insurers who are involved in it say, hey, we just can't continue to go along in this path. We're gonna have to back out because it's getting too expensive. So unless you put rules and protections in place, it won't work. If you have particular rules and protections in place, it could work, but over a period of time, you're gonna have to continue to monitor those things and also update your rules and the protections that are involved.
It's probably a good time for questions. I hope some of you may have some. Gary has a microphone, if you will, just flag him and open it up to questions. Gentleman here.
Yeah, this question, Mr. Watson,
Yes, sir.
it's kind of double. Insurance carrier being responsible for risk, I thought that's why you got paid.
You do. You're responsible for taking on a certain share of risk. But when that risk becomes too unbearable, no one wins in that game, which is kind of what's happened with a lot of things with the Affordable Care Act and some others, is that the risk has become so unbearable that no one's been able to stay in. We, taking the Affordable Care Act as an example, we did stay in, even though the risk was becoming very, very unbearable for us for several years.
Well, I appreciate that. It's kind of a preface, but I have some acquaintances in McDowell, Buncombe, Transylvania, Haywood County, who are your customers. They have insurance with Blue Cross Blue Shield. And Blue Cross Blue Shield is disengaged with their local hospital. So all these people were scurrying around trying to find. If you did the same thing to us in this county, it would be catastrophic.
So I'm assuming you're speaking of the Mission Hospital situation. And yes, so and it boils down to exactly what I've been talking about, which is healthcare costs. And the battle that we are in is a healthcare cost battle and trying to reduce healthcare costs. We were very, very disappointed when Mission decided to terminate our contract. And they made that decision. We did not terminate them. They terminated our contract. At that point, when they terminated the contract, we said, hey, this is what we're trying to do for our customers and employers in that market. We're trying to help bend the healthcare cost curve. Therefore, we do not want to give you a rate increase this year. We want you to hold your costs firm. We weren't asking them to take a decrease. We want you to hold your rates firm where they are, and then have your rate increase based on outcomes. Going back to the conversation I had earlier, have your rate increases that we give you based on how you are performing as a hospital. We've had over 40 other hospitals across the state take the exact same deal that we offered that hospital. And for whatever reason, they did not want to go along with us in this journey. We're continuing to have some dialogue with them and trying to get to a resolution, but that's what's important. It's about reducing the healthcare cost curve. And this is the way, when I talked about coming along with our provider partners, this is how we're going to do it over the long term. And it's going to help us all. It's not about Blue Cross, it's about our customers and our employers, and that's what we're trying to work with Mission to do as well.
Other questions?
Hi, yes, we have an initiative right now that's funded by the Golden Leaf Foundation, and our main goal is to help rural, small to medium-sized businesses increase their exports or begin exporting to help them, grow economically, add jobs. And I guess you spoke a bit about it from an economic development point of view, but I'm also interested from the business perspective, how you see exporting and becoming more globally engaged as a part of a county growing economically and increasing jobs and that sort of thing. I'm sorry. Mohawk Industries, I'm curious, I think you export already. So.
We do export, not as much from this facility perhaps as we do as a corporation as a whole, but we have manufacturing across the world. We have manufacturing in Russia, Italy, Belgium, so we're a global manufacturing company as a whole. We do export some rugs from Rockingham, North Carolina, Rockingham County, North Carolina, overseas. Our biggest player for us and our biggest opportunity is really the aviation carpet business. We have a few big players in the aviation carpet across the world. So we're competing with folks from Europe for aviation carpet. So I see that as being our biggest opportunity, and we do pursue that. We have salespeople stationed around the world in various regions that are competing every day with some of our global competitors for that business. So we do think that's going to be important. It'll be a large part of our growth plan going forward.
I want to kind of wrap up with kind of one more question, and so Sam, maybe you can address this. Offering insurance coverage for employees is one thing, but are there things that employers, employees, this community can do short of that insurance piece to improve these risk factors and kind of put Rockingham County in a better position?
Absolutely. Roy had mentioned engaging your employees. So encourage your employees, and I know all of the industry in this county can't afford to have health fairs. They can't afford to have a nurse on site. Those that do, that's great, and those employees can access through that nurse. But those they can't, there are an email serve, at least from Cone Health, that we can send you information. We have free community cancer screenings. We have free cooking classes. We have seminars, all kinds of things that could be free. So I would say educating those employees and encouraging for them to get their preventive health, to get an annual physical, to see a provider and not wait to where their disease gets catastrophic and that increases the cost of health care. So I think there are a lot of things that we offer that do not cost money. We also, Cone Health has a Health at Work department, and that's someone, if you are interested in speaking to someone, they can come up with a plan that's specific to your business, your industry. That may be a nurse coming by every now and then, or that may be just education programs. So I think there are available things that do not cost a lot of money.
And if I could, absolutely. I think there's a misunderstanding that doing health and wellness is very expensive. And it doesn't have to be very expensive. There are a lot of things you can just do within your own organizations. If you're an employer, that don't cost anything. Have walking challenges. Take the stairs. If you have snack machines, replace all of the unhealthy snacks with healthy snacks. Do free water. Have people pay $2 for the Coke and pay 50 cents for the water in the machine. Those are kinds of things that you can do to promote, just start the healthy living process, if you will. We do a lot of those things at Blue Cross. When they changed the vending machines, I was a little upset. We did, but those are some of the things that you can do to promote some health and wellness within your organizations that do not cost a lot of money. Walking meetings. It'll be amazing how short those meetings are when you're walking. Walking meetings. Do those kinds of things. You can do a lot for a little expense, just to get people engaged. Yeah.
Encourage your staff to park, leave the upfront parking spaces for your visitors and for us, our patients, and our parking is further away from the hospital.
It sounds like what we're hearing is we all have a role to play, be it employer, insurer, employee, county leadership, to move the county in the right direction. So I would encourage everybody to continue the conversation, take this back to your workplaces, to your communities, and be part of the solution. With that, turn it back over to Tom.
Lloyd, you snuck up on me. All right, let's give Lloyd a big round of applause for moderating. And of course, our panelists, thank you guys for participating today. We got a terrific question from the audience, and Jan actually snuck out while that happened. But I am sure that the four panelists will stick around for a bit after in case you have additional questions and want to chat. What I took away from that was exactly what Lloyd said. We all play a part in economic development, and this discussion really got a little deeper than just economic development. We talked a lot about wellness and healthcare and the health of our general population and how that helps Jan do her job. And so we can all do our part by maintaining health, by paying attention to our wellness and those kind of things, just to really help our region out as a whole. So once again, I got to thank our sponsors, Blue Cross Blue Shield of North Carolina. Thank you, Cheryl and team, for supporting this program. Thank you to our event partners, Rockingham Community College, Josh, Dr. Kinlaw. Thank you guys. And of course, the Rockingham, let me get this right. This is the Rockingham County Center for Small Business, Tourism, and Economic Development, right? In the right order?
Well,
Not in the right order.
Yeah,
well, there you go. Yeah, exactly. And one last thing. I talked to Jeff. Everybody knows Jeff Garska. I was out there for a minute. The Business Journal does annually a program called The Healthiest Employers, and it's coming up in November. And because of the direction that our discussion went, Jeff said to me, hey, did you remember that the city of Reidsville is one of the healthiest employer winners for 2017? So congratulations to Jeff and his team.
We appreciate the honor. Our leadership does put a lot of effort into this. I just want to say that the reception that's coming up is probably one of the worst ever, because you have to exercise for an hour and a half before you get to the drinks.
Yeah, it's the one event that we do that I dread a little bit, because there's we do CrossFit and stuff, wearing suits. It's a little bit weird. But hopefully you can join us. That's a great pitch, isn't it? Okay, folks, have a terrific Friday, and I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. We will see you at the next Business Journal event. Thank you, guys.